We can now peel that away and watch this. We have a really crisp, glossy design. Right, we are back with another epic resin art video using the hairspray. You've seen me use this a lot on the channels. There's quite a few videos floating around on this now, so thank you to those who have also tagged me in their versions. So you've seen me use the hairspray before to create these really cool effects in our pieces. But what if you don't want the kind of speckly texture and you want it more solid? This is really incredible. So what we're going to be doing differently in this video is we're going to be using stencils again, and I've got one of my really old dull molds. This is perfect for dull molds, so don't throw them away. Now, you've seen these stencils fit perfectly. These are 4-inch. They fit perfectly in this coaster mold. I've tried to find the links for the 4-inch coasters. They're 10 centimeters. So the stencils I can find, I'll pop those in the description, but the coaster sizes can be difficult to find the exact size. But what we're going to be doing differently in this video, we are going to be layering the resin and the hairspray and chameleon flakes. Now, when you do this, you might think, oh, you can just brush the chameleon flakes on the mold, remove the stencil, and then brush the other color chameleon flakes. You'll understand what I mean as we go through the video. You might think that is an easier option, but I'll show you at the end. It doesn't quite give the same effect. And all will make sense, trust me. So I'm using this brand hairspray. Lots of you in my previous videos have suggested other brands that also work. It is a firm hold and it's a number 4. Right, so what we normally do with this technique is we either spurt it, so it just spits out the hairspray to create bigger droplets, or we spray it from a distance, which gives us that textured effect. So we are going to be spraying it from a distance, but we're going to let it dry and then give it a few more sprays. So we're going to repeat the process. So from a distance, I'm holding my can. It's difficult to get it on camera, but around a foot from the mold. And I'm just giving it a very light mist. That's it. If you go too heavy, the hairspray is going to go underneath the stencil and it's not going to work. It's just going to create a mess. So what we now do is let that very fine mist dry, and then we repeat the process. And because it's a fine mist, it dries a lot quicker than the spurting version. Again, don't use any flames or anything to try and speed this up because it's highly flammable. Okay, so that first spray has dried and you can see that texture there, which is fine if you want that effect. But what we're going to be doing is creating like windows into a background color. This is what I mean by layering it. So by doing what I want to do, I need to keep adding layers. So I'm just going to repeat the process, just a fine spray. Like I said, that first layer only took about 5 minutes to dry or cure because hairspray is a kind of resin. So all I'm going to do is keep repeating that until I've got a resin-like shiny finish in each of these areas in the stencil, and I'll show you afterwards and tell you how many sprays it took. Okay, so that took 8 sprays. And I really wish, before I started the video, that I'd put my heat mat underneath. I think that really would have sped things up. Anyway, you'll see this really glossy. It has a texture, but it shouldn't show through. My previous one didn't. So we can now peel that away. And watch this. We have a really crisp, glossy design on our dull coaster, ready to move on. It can peel away a little bit with the stencil because as you've layered it up, the hairspray, like a resin, will cling to the stencil. So when you peel it away, it can. But that's the first time it's happened for me. But I have only done this twice. Right, we now need to make sure that is 100% dry before we move on. So I'm going to give that probably another, maybe only 5-10 minutes. And I actually just managed to push that part down so it's snug against the mold again. So now I am happy that it's fully dry. We are going in with our first layer of chameleon flakes. This is the Let's Resin set. I'm going in with a violet to begin with. As we know, the flakes will only stick to the mold. They won't stick to the hairspray. So I'm just using a soft brush and I'm going to just begin to brush the whole mold with the flakes. You might get some areas where some flakes stick to the hairspray a little bit, but it's nothing to worry about. It's fine. You can see how that is beginning to take form. So as you've seen in previous videos, this will also work with powders, like interference powders, chameleon powders, whatever kind of powders you want to use. Not sure about fine glitters, I haven't tried yet. But one thing to bear in mind is where you've sprayed the hairspray, the sides of the mold are also going to be kind of covered in the hairspray. I could have taken some time and cleaned the edges up, but if you want to do that, that's entirely up to you. You could always finish it off afterwards with like a metallic pen if you've got one. And you could even spend some time just using something to clean up these specks. But I wouldn't go with anything wet because that could affect the hairspray. But what you could do is use like a pick, just gently. So it is going to have another layer of resin. Just rub away those larger specks that are stuck to the design. So to give this piece more depth, we now need to apply a thin layer of resin. Now in my previous one I used UV resin and it was literally such a thin amount, but it really separates the design from the background and gives it a really crisp cutout and a little bit of depth. The trouble is when it comes to adding clear to a chameleon flake, what can happen is if it hasn't got a solid background, it can look it doesn't look quite right. It looks a bit patchy and you can see the flakes. So you do need to only do a thin layer, but I don't know whether to push this a little bit further and just see how deep I can go, because I am going to be applying another color chameleon flake on the cured resin. I'm hoping that will, well, I know with a thin layer it helps, but I'm not sure about widening that distance. I suppose I can try it and show you the one that I did before, which has a very, very thin coat, so you can see the difference. But with this one, I'm going to do the thin layer with epoxy and be patient. Well, I say be patient, but I'm going to go and pop it on my heat mat so it cures a bit quicker. But I need to get to it where it's tacky enough for me to put on that second layer of chameleon flakes. So I'm just using the collab resin for this. Just going to mix up a small amount and pour it in. So I've just poured my epoxy into the mold. Like I said, I've gone a bit deeper than I did my UV version, but it's probably, I'd say 2 millimeters in depth, so not much. So just going to let that cure. Okay, I sped that up. My resin is, it's not fully cured, but it's got that kind of tackiness to it. I'm just hoping it's not tacky in some places that it's it's going to make a mess. So with this backing color, I'm going with a lime green from the same set. And please bond. I'm going to just cover the whole back. You may be thinking I'll just do the leaves, but it's not sticking where I want it to. I might have to try the hack. Yeah, if there is any visibility through that first colour, the violet, I don't want the green only showing in certain areas. It's just not going to work. I got to it a little bit too late. I was too busy experimenting with... I think I could possibly have found a way to revitalise dull moulds. I'm just currently testing it at the moment. Right, this isn't bonding. So I'm going to keep trying actually, because it might be. I might just be looking at it in the wrong light. I think it would do. By the time I got the black on, I think that should be fine. I just persevered. I used my heat gun a little bit just to make it a little bit more tacky, but I think it will do. So with this, imagine that, I mean, the different color combos that you could do, but also by creating these windows, you could do lots of other things inside. But the trouble is with chameleon flakes or powders, you do need that black. But you can experiment. I think some wording on some vinyl somewhere. I don't know. So I'm just going to mix up some more resin with some black mica powder in and go and pop it back on a heat mat. Now, as always, massive shout out to my channel members, anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks, and to all my subs. Right, we are all cured. Super quick on a heat mat. Love it. As always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment. If you haven't subbed, hit that button for me. Actually, I'm going to have to top this. I'm going to have to glaze coat this like I did my previous one, which you'll see. I'm just really hoping that the bigger distance hasn't really ruined the first layer, but we're going to find out. It hasn't. You can see that depth. You're going to see the depth much better once it's got that final coat on, and these colors are going to absolutely pop. Now, do I cheat and just go with UV resin, or do I just stick with epoxy? Because I've done the whole thing with epoxy now. I might as well do the whole thing, mightn't I? You do need to be careful when top coating something with chameleon flakes brushed onto the mold, because the resin is just going to want to pull inwards. So you do need to get a decent amount on there, but not too much that it's going to over pour. And you can't sand this down like you normally would, because as soon as you start sanding, that's it, you're going to lose the colour. But it's coming up to 6 PM, so I'm going to glaze this tomorrow, and I'm going to go home and get some rest. Okay, so this has rested overnight. Now, this is really important as well. I forgot to mention this yesterday, is that when you demold a piece and it's still quite flexible and you want to top coat it, I really do recommend placing it on a flat surface face down. The reason being is because if you've got any lips around the outside and your coaster's still got some flex, and you place it down and leave it overnight, what's going to happen, or can happen, is the middle is going to dip. And when it comes to glazing or top coating, especially if using UV resin and cheating like I am, what's going to happen is most of the resin is going to be deeper in the center. It's not going to give you a perfect cure. So always place it face down. Face down. And also if you're using epoxy, because you're going to be using more epoxy to fill that center area, so let it harden face down. Just make sure it's not on something that's textured, because it could leave an imprint on the front. Just bear that in mind. So I am just going to cheat and speed things up with UV resin. I'm going to just go over the whole top, and as mentioned, this can separate from the sides, but hopefully I will have success. And then I'm just going to use my stick and just go over like that, go over like that, and that will begin to close all of those gaps. If not, I can just go over them and then just take it to the edge all the way around Just be careful you don't go over the sides, because that will make a mess. You'll also, I don't know if you can see the blue surface there, that is my level table, just to make sure that the resin is even over the whole piece. You definitely want to be doing this on something that is level. Now I'm just going to pop this under the beast. I'm going to put it on a low setting, 12 watts for about 30 seconds, and then increase to full power for a minute. And I know yesterday I said that I was going to be patient and finish the top coat with epoxy. I've got so much planned video wise. Today is just crammed with with filming and ideas. So this is the one that we did. You wasn't there. It was just me. This is the one that I did with a very, very thin coat of UV resin after the hairspray and chameleon flakes. And that was using the green as the background color instead of the lime that we used in. Did we use the lime? I'm sure we used the lime. I need to check now. But you can see it's very, very crisp. The detail, and it's got a small amount of depth. It's almost like vinyl. It is incredible. I've got a tiny little bubble there, but you can't really see it. And the color intensity is absolutely incredible. I love this. So yeah, using hairspray as like a window or a thin coat, you can achieve so much. Imagine the different stencils that you could use. You could do this on a smaller scale if you wanted. So that was one of them. The one that we have just done has so much more depth. Look at the shadows it's casting. It's insane. Hairspray works wonders. The finish is really, really nice also. But yeah, there you go. I'm pretty sure that was the lime. I think I prefer the green though, because that has more color when you shift it. This one stays pretty much green, but then it is a tree, isn't it, guys? But look at that depth and crispness. Absolutely incredible. Right, hope you enjoyed that one. Go and play around with it. But I just thought I'd give you a different vibe with the hairspray. Instead of the speckle, I mean, the speckling is fine for certain projects. But you can also have a really nice, crisp, clear window into your work. Yeah, get sharing, drop me a comment, thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up, guys. So many, even if it's a thumbs down, I really couldn't care less if you thumbs down my content. If it's not for you, feel free to thumbs down it. I mean, it's what the button's there for. Just do one of the two, because the last video, I think I posted I pinned a comment on that video. It's not too much to ask, guys. You get this stuff for free. And I know many of you always do it, and you always interact and always comment. It's a massive thank you. But there's so many. I mean, I think I hit 1,000 views in the first hour on the last video. And like the ratio to thumbs reactions was really, really low. So yeah, definitely interact with the video, guys. It really does help the algorithm. Like I said, even if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. I couldn't care less. You're not going to change me. I'm still going to keep doing what I do. Just quickly, I remembered as I was stitching the video together, so I've had to stitch this in a little gap towards the end of the video. I did mention about some people may say, oh, you could just brush the chameleon flakes through the stencil, peel the stencil away, and then brush the other color onto the stencil also, and then back it. Now, you will not get a finish like this doing that. You will not, and here's proof of that. So this is just a patchwork test, just to show you the difference by doing that. So look, this was, like I just said, brushing through the stencil, removing the stencil, and then brushing the second colour over. I know it hasn't had a top coat, but you can see the difference. It's not crisp. I mean, the colours are there, but it's just not going to be anywhere near like these kind of finishes. So yeah, I thought I'd quickly stitch that in just to show you. I'm going to quickly top coat that just because there's going to be one or two people that are going to say, well, yeah, okay, but it's not top coated. I mean, there you go. It just kind of all blends together, doesn't it? Even with that top coat, it doesn't really separate or define anything as much as this does. I thought I'd say it anyway, or show it just in case. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that one. I will see you for the next one. Bye for now.